what are the contextual parameters that will keep my occasional use of such words godly?
So bro is teaching us how to swear, like in a godly way. Like, here's how you say some good, godly swear words. This one's from Apologia Studios, and it's called Christians and Bad Words. So let's check this one out.
And one of the things I lay out in the book, and at the beginning of the book, is that in English, there are 4 general categories of objectionable words.
Okay.
There is swearing, there is cursing, there is obscenity, and there's vulgarity.
Okay.
Okay. So swearing would be, God. Cursing would be go to hell. Obscenity would be F-U kind of language.
Yeah.
And then vulgarity would be junior high bathroom humor, coarse jesting, the Apostle Paul calls it in Ephesians.
Okay.
There should be no coarse jesting. So you have swearing, cursing, obscenity, and vulgarity.
Yeah.
Now, the Bible prohibits all 4.
Okay.
The Bible prohibits all 4. And in other places in the Bible, we have godly instances of all 4.
Oh. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's very helpful. Yeah.
Right. So basically, their mouths in Romans,
Yeah, you're gonna have to drop the receipts for us for that. You can't just be saying stuff like that.
the non-believer, their mouths are full of cursing and bitterness.
Yeah.
Okay, that's off the table. But then Paul says in Galatians, if we are an angel from heaven preached to you a different gospel than the one you received, then God that guy.
Okay.
Let him be accursed.
That's exactly right.
Okay, so you have ungodly cursing and godly cursing.
Yeah.
Okay, then it says, Jesus says, swear not at all. Don't swear by the earth beneath you or heaven above you. And Jesus says not to swear.
Okay.
Okay, but then in Deuteronomy, it says you shall trust in the Lord your God and take your oaths in his name. In Hebrews, it says God could find no one greater to swear by, so he swore by himself, saying.
Right. So So the whole situation of God swearing, I mean, that's like a different situation, right? Because I mean, God could strike down somebody if God wanted to strike down somebody, and that would be justified entirely because it's God striking them down. Like, God has the authority to do that, and God would have had legitimate reasons for it, right? For doing it, because it would be a just reason. Because you can't do anything that's unjust. But as a human being, can't do that. So obviously, there's like a difference between kind of what we are allowed to do and what God's allowed to do. If I went and just struck down somebody who I felt sinned against me, like, that would be wildly, it would be called murder for sure. So there's like different standards. That's what that tells me, at least. That there's like a different standard for what I'm supposed to interact and behave versus what God's allowed to do, capable of, etc., etc. Yeah, like, so I mean, that's one of my views. I would agree with that. But go on.
Or the Apostle Paul says, as God is my witness, I'm telling you the truth.
Yeah.
Those are all oaths. Those are all instances of godly swearing.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, Paul also takes 2 Nazirite vows, like in Acts. There are 2 instances. One instance where it says that he cuts his hair, and then there's another instance where it says, go with these guys, take them, and take up an oath, and go and do the sacrifices in the temple. So Paul himself takes oaths. He still does that. He carries on doing that. So it's not like Jesus actually put an end to that, or else why would the apostles do that? Because James is the one to tell Paul to go and do that. So that's kind of... So I'm tracking so far.
And yet there is clearly a category of ungodly swearing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have godly cursing, ungodly cursing. You have godly swearing, ungodly swearing. You have ungodly obscenity, right?
Yeah.
It's Paul says in Ephesians that it's shameful to even allude to what the unrighteous, ungodly do in secret. Let there not even be a hint of that among you. So he's talking about obscenity, the dirty deeds of the dirty birds. But then you have the passage from Ezekiel that you read at the top of the show. All right. That is obscene, off stage.
It is.
Obscene. Obscene is something that is off stage, basically. That's what the word means. It's something that you don't show directly. And then when you show it directly, there is a real obscenity in it. Another obscenity would be photos of abortion victims. Okay, that's an obscenity. We shouldn't have to be looking at this, but it's better to look at it than to pretend that it's not happening. All right, so you have obscenity, godly obscenity, Ezekiel, and ungodly obscenity. Then you have vulgarity, where you have I alluded earlier in Ephesians, Paul says, objects to crass joking, coarse jesting. Don't talk that way, Paul says. And yet we have your righteousness in Isaiah. Your righteousness is like a used menstrual cloth. And that's vulgar on two levels. Right? That's simply a bodily function reference that everybody would find distasteful, but it would also have a layer of a religious taboo for the Jews, where you have your righteousness is like the pinnacle of this unclean thing, and so it's offensive language, and it's offensive language just in the very that the word brings along with it, and so consequently you have to say, all right, what are the contextual parameters that will keep my occasional use of such words godly?
Yes.
Right? Now, all right. And that's if you can't keep it godly,
So bro is teaching us how to swear, like in a godly way. Like, here's how you say some good, godly swear words.
if you can't keep it in the right lane, it's better not to use those words at all.
I like the point you made, Pastor Doug, about obscenities and what's obscene. And you mentioned the issue of using, pictures of aborted babies. And I think people would recognize that the difference between Thanksgiving dinner with all your family gathered and someone starts tossing down pictures of aborted babies between the mashed potatoes and the turkey at the table, and then the difference between that and going to the Capitol or going to the abortion mill and showing those obscene photos. It's the context matters.
Correct. Context matters because these words are a linguistic thing. It's part of language. We're seeking to communicate. We're not seeking to miscommunicate. Yeah. And all communication depends on context.
Doug, let me ask you, because this is so helpful. What are you trying to communicate with this book? What do you ultimately hope happens with belief?
That's great, but so what are you saying here? What are you telling us here? What? That was a good one, but what exactly are you saying, bro? Like, are you telling me I can say a couple of things? What? Give us
believers who read this book, they digest it, they're convinced with the biblical and rational argumentation over this subject. What do you wish to happen from this?
Well, I wish that the pietistic Christians would loosen up a bit, not in their own personal conversation. If a very pious little old sweet lady reads my book and is persuaded by it, I don't want her to change her personal speech patterns at all. There's no need to. This is not a mandate to go start using these words. But it does mean that she needs to be okay with the people who are in the battle, in the fray, and who are using this kind of language judiciously and for righteousness' sake.
So it's been something like probably about 19-20 years where you could probably count in your hand the number of times that I would use bad language, obscene language, many of the different kinds of stuff. I don't curse, I don't any of that, and I think coarse jesting is probably kind of where I'm at. I mean, come on, like I've been a young man, I am a young man, and that type of stuff that people will say like in private, or we would make jokes, like we joke like that. I mean, guys, we joke about things. That's how we are. And that's the type of folks that I've known in my life. So yeah, I'm not gonna lie about it though. I'm gonna give you the truth here. That's what I'm gonna do. So here's the thing. For about 19 years, I genuinely have not said any foul words like the F word and those kinds of things, right? I don't do that. That's just not. I've kind of worked it out of my vocabulary. But now the way that I've done it is I replace it with other words. So I use different words to get kind of the same effect across, right? Now, I eventually had always hoped that I would do away with even those backup words, which are approved words, right? But I've kind of stopped at that point, and it does make me wonder if I should just keep pushing on, try and get done with that. But the whole point of what I'm trying to say right now is that I think that if you don't want to get caught saying bad language, then just work it out of your vocabulary. Just slowly, over time, genuinely work it out of your vocabulary until you have replaced all of the bad words with better words. And then from there, take it to the next level. That's my opinion. And if you don't say those kinds of bad words, then what ends up happening is your speech improves. Because you can speak in any kind of context, like, oh, it's a high stress context. That would be the prime context for you to use words that are very bad. And as a believer, that's not what you want to do in that kind of situation. You often find yourself in situations like that in a church context, and you don't want to use bad language, or you'll find yourself amongst children and you don't want to use bad language amongst children because you don't want to set that example to them. So what I would often do is rely upon the fact that I've put in place these other words that I can use instead of those words, and then I end up using those words in place. And I'm talking about words like flip and, like those kinds of words, instead of saying like that word, or like I use the word crap instead of the S word, or like and those are like the backup words that I would use. And I do that because now that I've worked it out, I never have to worry about something slipping out accidentally. And again, have some mercy on yourself, because I do think that some of the times you're not gonna get it right 100% of the time, for sure. And I'm like, over the years, I definitely will tell you, I definitely let it slip a couple of times. I'm not even gonna lie to you though. Like I have definitely let it slip a couple of times, because those were like low moments in my life, I would say, where I was looking for maximum harm in my words. Which, I mean, of course, at this point, I've been over it. Like those words, apologies have been crossed here and there, and all those kinds of things for those type of things. But for those instances, and I do look back and I feel disappointed in myself, because I've built up this kind of mentality of replacing bad words, and I've moved on from that. Right? I've put it behind me. It's gone. I'm never going back. That's all in the past. And so, yeah, the reason why I'm watching this is I'm trying to encourage you. You don't have to even have this conversation. You don't even have to have the discussion of whether or not you should use certain words or whatever. Like Doug, the guy in the video here, he probably wrote this book for nothing. If you just cut them out entirely and just replace them with other words, you're done. You finished. That's it. Of course, certain things you have to genuinely stop, like cursing people. But then, like he's saying, there might be contexts in which those kinds of things are approved.
Right? Instead of freaking out when it happens. And one of the
Yeah, and in recent times, this is the other thing, I've always been uncomfortable with people swearing a lot around me. Because why? You pick that up. You pick it up. It's so easy to pick it up when somebody else is using bad language. Man, you pick it up so easily. Because your friends all around you, and especially like the content that you consume, if you notice that you start, like they'll use these words and I'll have it sitting in my mind all the time. Like, I want to say the word. I want to say the word in this context, because I'm trying to be a lot like the people that I follow or watch and things like that. And so what I'm trying to do is you got to also, I guess, either cut down on it or just make sure that you stick to your guns with with what you say. Right? You got to do that. Okay, it's gone.
One of the examples, and this is something that that I budget for in my own experience. When I was a young man, when I was a teenager, the word "sucks" was the equivalent of the F word.
Yeah. It was like that for me too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if I had ever used that expression, my mom, I would have been slapped into the middle of next week.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was just off limits, and that had an impact on me. Right. To this day, I hear other Christians using it not in the calculated way that we're talking about here.
Yeah.
It's just used in common discourse.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't. and I don't because of how I was how I was taught as a kid. All right. And there's certain things where I've seen my way clear biblically to use these words when it accomplishes my goals. But there are some words like sucks or your earlier use of a-hole is I just don't do that because of how I was brought up. I would find another creative way to get the same impact.
There you go.
And I think some people, it's that way with all of those words.
Yeah, right. There you go. That's me.
They just can't get around it. A few examples of this. If you call someone, you visiting a family and they just had a little baby, and you going out after the pastoral visit, you call the baby a cute little son of a gun.
Okay.
Okay. Nobody is going to think anything of it, right?
Yeah.
But son of a gun is originally the son of a prostitute, because the
What?
British Navy used to supply prostitutes to the sailors, and when a prostitute got pregnant, nobody knew who the father was, and so that was the son of a gun.
Oh.
Okay.
Whoa,
Now
crazy.
that's an example of a linguistic expression that has had all the energy drained out of it.
Yeah, right.
It's just an expression.
Yeah.
Or if you say the kid's a cute little Dickens, well, that's shoot cussing that everybody forgot is shoot cussing. Dickens is the substitute for devil. People know that shoot is the substitute, and they know that darn is a substitute, but they don't know that Dickens is a substitute. Okay.
Yeah.
Or if someone is trying to write a medieval, graphic novel or something about Robin Hood, and one of the characters swears odd bodkins.
What? What?
Odd bodkins or zounds, right? Zounds is short for God's wounds. Okay, that's an oath. An oath appealing to the wounds of Christ. Or odd bodkins. For modern readers, it just sounds kind of quaint and medieval, but it's God's little bodykins, God's little bodies, referring to the host and the Lord's Supper.
That's freaking crazy.
So,
that's crazy. I feel like I want to go and look up like all of these words and try to figure out where they come from, because there are many words that people say that I was like, what the heck? If you know any of these kinds of words, like, please drop it in the comments. I'd be interested to hear that.
I just used the example of sucks, having changed its potency has drained over the last 40 years, and now it means mildly unpleasant.
Yeah.
And before it was a lot of voltage in it. So if someone said, hey, is it possible that in a Christian republic 500 years from now that the F word is going to be acceptable in common? Yeah, I'd say stranger things have happened than that.
Yeah.
Right. Consequently, when you go from one culture to another, you have to be mindful of how distinct is this culture.
Oh, yeah.
Is it a corrupt culture, or is it a subculture? So, for example, when I was in the Navy, in the submarine service, that was a subculture. There were certain things on the boat that there was no clean name for.
Wow.
I bet.
Okay.
Right? And then after a while, after years of being around
show.
sailors like that, I didn't talk that way, but you just hear it all the time and get desensitized to it.
Yeah.
And I remember one time I watched a movie on the submarine that they'd showed, and I thought it was really funny. And then it was re-released after I was out of the Navy and I was married now. And I thought, oh, that was a really funny movie. I'll take Nancy to go see it. And so we went to it, and good grief.
Hey, watch your mouth there, Doug.
What's going on?
You're like, I don't remember it like this.
That's right, because it had just become part of the wallpaper of my brain.
Right.
People talk that time, and I didn't notice anything in the movie.
Yeah.
And then after I was out of the Navy and I was hanging around Christians all the time, and nobody talked like that, my sensitivities got readjusted the way
there
they
you
ought
go.
to be adjusted.
Right.
It really is. We should labor to speak in all purity and nobility and loveliness and so forth.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
basically, I believe that these words are lawful, but they should be used very, very sparingly.
Yeah.
All right, very
Absolutely.
sparingly, because you don't want to wreck them.
This
Yeah.
video is brought to you by Amtech Blades. We are very excited to be partnering with Amtech. Bill Rapier, longtime Navy SEAL, DevGuru operator, amazing brother and friend. Looking for a battle axe to carry on your person, to chop some wood, they've got you covered. Looking for a blade to carry on you every day, also got you covered. Look at this. I got to check my mail. What do we got going on here? Oh,
This is a
look how
Christian
sharp
channel.
that
I'm
is.
so like, what?
What is
What's
this?
going on?
Oh, 5% off. You can go to amtechblades.com, put Apology in the coupon code, get 5% off your order, and he will match that and give 5% to End Abortion Now. Again, amtechblades.com. We're grateful for them. Check them out.
So yeah, great video. I would say that, yeah, that's my opinion. Don't use the words if you don't think that it's, if you're concerned about the fact that that you're going to use it wrong. Right? So like Doug was talking about using it in a good Christian context, but I would say that for sure there are some contexts where you can't use these kind of words. I would say for sure that it's better to just substitute basically every single word that you think is a bad word. Like if you are out there using some of the words that he was even talking about right now, yeah, go change up those words, because there is really no point in having bad language. And I think that you are a step ahead of most people by not using that kind of language. Now, if you are surrounded by or you hear a lot of bad language, I hope that this video kind of encourages you that some of the language is appropriate in certain contexts, and it's not really that much that you need to be concerned about. I was very sensitive to this in the past, but as I began to have a better understanding about what is right and wrong in God's word, what's sinful and not sinful, I started to understand that swearing just doesn't actually fall 100% within that category of stuff. And so I think that I achieved the point where I am not offended by these words, though I don't think there's ever going to be a situation where I will go back to where I was before, where I was using bad language so much. And I think I'm going to stick to where I am and try and keep moving forward. So yeah, good video. Thanks so much.